The Great Tribulation is the time of Jacob's trouble, Jeremiah 30, verse 5 and 7. It is a time when all of Israel, all 12 tribes, are going to collapse, and they are going to be taken over by foreign powers. And this Great Tribulation is going to start in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the powder keg that's going to explode, and that fire, as the book of Ezekiel says, will go unto all the house of Israel. So Jerusalem is the powder keg. Now the temple is going to be that spark that's going to ignite it. And of course that will ignite the Great Tribulation. Notice what Jesus says in Matthew the 24th chapter and verse 15. He says, "When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place." And of course that holy place is the temple. He is talking about a physical temple. He's talking about the physical city of Jerusalem. And if he's talking about the physical city of Jerusalem, why not a physical temple? So he's talking about the physical temple, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. So Jesus is quoting the book of Daniel that we find in Daniel the 12th chapter. And it says in verse 11, it says, "And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away." Notice we see the daily sacrifices taking place here in Jerusalem. To do that, there must be a temple. Now it could be a temporary tabernacle before they build the actual temple, or the temple itself, but there will be something on the original site where the temple stood, and sacrifices are going to be taking place. We're just going to have to wait and see. It says, "shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up shall be 1,290 days." So there's going to be the sacrifices, and after 30 days the sacrifices will be stopped, and then will come the Great Tribulation of 1,260 days, a 3.5-year period called the Great Tribulation. Now, Jesus and Daniel says that there's going to be an abomination that's going to be set up in the holy place. Now, what is an abomination? Well, an abomination is something that God finds, that God hates in His sight, and it usually has to do with idolatry. Now, this abomination that was set up in the holy place, of course, was fulfilled in type by Antiochus Epiphanes that we find in Daniel, the 11th chapter, verse 31 rather. Daniel, the 11th chapter, verse 31. And it says here, it says, "And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate." Now that was fulfilled in type by Antiochus Epiphanes, who set up idolatry in the temple of God and sacrifice a pig on God's altar, and of course that made Jerusalem desolate. But if you notice, this is a dual prophecy. In Daniel the 8th chapter, it speaks of the same event that took place by Antiochus Epiphanes. In verse 12 it says, "And the host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered." And then a little later on it says here, it says, "I heard one saint speaking to another saint, and said unto the certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. That was fulfilled in Antiochus Epiphanes' day. But notice verse 17. And it talks about this same vision. It says, O Son of Man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. So what Antiochus did in Jerusalem at that time was only a type of what is going to happen in the end time. And Jesus Christ confirms it in Matthew 24 when it talks about the abomination of desolation. Something that God hates, usually idol worship, idol practice, is going to be set up in the temple of God, and that is going to cause the great tribulation from it. Now, in 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, here we see what this abomination is going to be. Here it talks about a falling away that's going to take place in the church of God, and it says, "And that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition." It says, "That day shall not come, except there come a falling away first." That first century church fell away after the disciples, all the disciples died. It fell away into Roman idolatry, and it picked up a lot of festivals, a lot of practices from the ancient pagans, and incorporated into the church, and it fell away from the truth. And it says, "There come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed." The end result of the falling away of the first century church is the Roman Catholic Church today. And who's the head of the Roman Catholic Church? The Pope in Rome. And that Pope in Rome is the man of sin that is to be revealed out of this falling away that took place. The son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, and who comes to the Pope when it comes to religious matters. All other religions come to the Pope and discuss religious matters with the Pope. The Pope heads all religions, and he wants to make a huge alliance with Islam, and he wants to reconcile with the Greek Orthodox churches and make the Pope head of it all. So he opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. There you have it. The abomination that makes desolate. This little horn, now when you read the booklet, The Little Horn, Hitler and the Beast of Prophecy, we show you that the little horn of Daniel the 8th chapter is not the little horn of Daniel the 7th chapter. The little horn of Daniel the 7th chapter is the Pope in Rome, and it stays a little horn. But you read in Daniel the 8th chapter that this little horn, in verse 9, it says, "The little horn which waxed exceedingly great." So this little horn starts as a little horn, but then grows and becomes very, very powerful. And this little horn we have identified as the coming beast of prophecy. And this beast, this political leader who heads a 10-nation combine, possibly called the United States of Europe, is going to be a church-state government. And this little horn that grows great is going to set up the Pope in Rome to settle all the religious problems, to homogenize and amalgamate all the religions of the world, and he's going to be the head of it all, as it says that he exalts himself above all that is called God and that is worshipped, and that he as God sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God, the vicar of Christ. And the vicar of Christ means that he represents Christ on earth. And you can't get more abominable than that. Setting himself up in the temple of God, saying he is the vicar of Christ. That is the abomination that makes desolate.